All right, well, I think we might get started. So with me, obviously, I've got our CEO, Tim McGibbon, and our very, very special guest, Josh Fegan, who has been coaching in the real estate space for 13 years. So has navigated all kinds of different conditions, but nothing quite like this, Josh.
Certainly, it's certainly a set of new challenges and a new set of conditions. I think that we would normally produce new content every 21 days, and now we're producing new content about every 21 hours. So it's certainly been a very aggressive phase. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Wow. That just blows my mind. All right, so we are able to ask Josh questions. So what we might do is hand over to Josh to run his presentation, and then I'll come back to you with questions maybe at the end. Would that work better?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay,
so
beautiful.
For everyone, just so they know, they've obviously got the Q&A box and obviously the chat box as well. So Tim and Leanne will look after those whilst I'm presenting, and then we can get to come in and do some live questions as we go. So team, it's so great to be here with you today. And certainly I've got some things that hopefully will inspire a new level of confidence and energy around certainly the future of where we can be going and what we can be doing. And what I think is massively important is just to think about the opportunities that this particular market certainly does present for all of us. Today, what I know is that we are in the middle of what they go to call a very simple thing, and it's what they go and call the Great Virus Crisis. And as a part of that conversation, what you want to be thinking about is that how do we actually really take a hold of the opportunities that this particular virus crisis does allow? Now, the big driver for me in saying that is that let's have a quick look at how fast this thing has actually moved. We're in a position that ultimately you need to think about how you go to design your business, because for all of us, it's really about achievement. And one of the big conversations I've been having with people is that, what makes a good day and what makes a bad day? If a good day for a real estate agent on the sales side is all about a listing and a sale, and that effectively means that if they did about 50 of those a year, that must mean there's 50 good days. Does that therefore mean there's 300 or so bad days? Now, the reality of it is that what do you do to actually make a bad day a good day? You really set yourself up for success and you continue to drive forward on that level of momentum. Let's have a look at the innovation that's come into the real estate space over the course of the last 8 to 10 weeks. We've seen the live streaming of open for inspections and auctions. We've also seen new sale methods, starting to come into the process. A lot more electronic versions, a lot of conversations. A lot of the banks are very keen to get into that space. We've seen some businesses move forward in having really informal training sessions with all of their PM staff and really rallying around people to be talking to them on these things we're going to call a collective Wednesday. Just an informal chat for 30 minutes about the things that we can and can't do, and certainly the challenges that they've been facing to give people confidence in this new era. We've certainly seen some organisations move to collective Fridays, a little 30-minute session every Friday just with their sales team, just talking the talk about what's happening, certainly giving people good quality information about new regulations, what's happening inside of the market, and some great case studies to inspire that level of confidence. We've also seen shorter and sharper and more consistent training sessions. The REI New South Wales has done a phenomenal job there in every day giving you some really good quality updates on what's happening, not only in legislation, but also too some real practical tips about what's happening on the ground. We've seen digital inspections on the rise, with a number of people obviously doing things from FaceTime right the way through to good quality video walkthroughs of properties, and that will certainly be here to stay. We've seen landlord forums on Zoom, some amazing things that we've seen people doing, but they've literally got a whole group of their landlords to come and have a 45-minute session where they talk specifically about some of the changes in the legislation and what they were doing around renewals and reletting properties and the conversations around what is and isn't allowable underneath these new conditions. We've also seen some really innovative agencies moving to have some seller forums where they would get a number of sellers to come into a Zoom meeting and talk to them about the current market conditions and what the challenges that may have been ahead. Certainly in the past, we would have done this as a movie night where we would have invited people in. We wouldn't have been able to get to the cinema these days. So now is a great chance to create our own cinematic masterpiece. But more importantly, this is the great chance to really emerge with new leadership teams. This is the time to really allow people in sort of the organisation to really step up during the course of a crisis. And we've certainly seen a lot of that. Let's have a quick look about what's happening. This is the National Property Clock from Herring Todd White. It goes to show all of the different marketplaces in Australia and certainly what has happened in those markets over the course of the last month or so. This is the latest edition. The newest edition will come out in about a week or so's time. Interesting conversation that they have seen Sydney move from effectively the rising market effectively at 9 o'clock to all the way to 1 p.m. in the course of effectively a month or so. What we're hearing on the ground is certainly there was a lot of pricing pressure between the $1 to $2.5 million sector about 5 weeks ago. Certainly prices were literally on the decline, 8 or 9%, but literally nationally, we've started to see this recovery phase. Certainly here in Sydney, between the 1 to 2.5 million sector has recovered very strong. And a lot of my agents are reporting it's probably up 10 or 11% in the course of the last 2 weeks. So if you have a quick look at it, from the start of the month to the end of the month, it's probably exactly the same. And so this is a really interesting conversation to see that at different stages in the economy, markets will behave very differently. It is important to remember that literally Sydney tends to be the leader in the Australian property market. Whatever happens there usually flows on to places like Melbourne, a few weeks later. And certainly some of our regional markets are performing absolutely amazingly. Having a quick look at that, my old hometown of Albury and Dubbo and Bathurst and Tamworth, some of those locations are doing very, very well, certainly at the peak of their market cycle. And so this is a really good document. It's a great one to be able to evidence to buyers, evidence to sellers, to talk to them about where we're at in terms of the current property cycle. That is a really important one. For sellers, it would indicate that literally if you're in the Sydney marketplace, you need to be doing something in the not too distant future if prices continue to decline. However, having said that, I think that by the time we get to the next version of this graph next month, we may well see Sydney already back at start of recovery. To give you an idea, literally only 18 months ago, we went from peak of market to the bottom of market in effectively 6 months. On average in this particular document, it will take you from bottom of market to peak of the market somewhere between about 5 to 7 years. But literally the interesting conversation, this has happened in the course of the matter of under 6 months, and certainly our cycle has flipped in the course of a matter of a couple of weeks. So this is a good document to keep yourself ahead of. Ultimately, every single person that we're working with right now needs one of a few different things. And we've got to think about where we're at in terms of, this is certainly not a market that will be dominated by seasons. This is the market that's going to be dominated by the market conditions of the day, which will be dominated ultimately by the headlines. Now, for every single person on this session today, you're probably after one of a few things. Some of us need motivation. We certainly get to the beginning of a winter period. We can start to see it getting a little bit colder. We can start to see wondering whether or not we want to get out of bed in the morning when we hear the rain, which was actually the air conditioner. Some of those things as a part of that conversation. But also too, some of us need listings. We know there's a chronic listing shortage. Some of the reporting is coming through up to 35% less new listings coming to market in the course of the last 28 days. That's really important because we're going to talk a little bit about today about what you can be doing to generate those leads. Certainly there are some issues. Some people need to get some properties sold, and certainly there might be some price reductions and things that are required around that. What we have seen is that now is a really good time just to analyze the current stock that your business has on the market today. How much of the stock that you're currently carrying was listed in 2019? How much of that stock was listed pre-March 15, which is effectively the COVID moment, as I'm calling it, and then how much of your stock has been listed after COVID? Certainly any of the stock that was listed pre-March 15, you need to be having the right conversations now. These properties are on the market potentially languishing, 4, 5, 6 months. And now it is time to go back and have that conversation, re-signing agency agreements, recommitting to new price changes, maybe a change in sale method, additional vendor paid marketing if that is required. And it's a really good place to be able to get yourself that level of confidence. We know the quickest way to get cash flow is to sell our existing listings. And so the more that we can get in and do the right thing by our clients to help them to navigate the challenges of the day, to get to a sales result, the quicker that we're going to go and get some really good outcomes for them. At the end of the day, I love this as a great question. This is a great way to start. If your business depended on business success, right? If your life depended on that in the course of the next 30 days, then what's the first thing that you should do? And the first thing that you should do without a doubt is to commit to your plan and getting clarity. I know that in the course of the next 4 weeks, you'll be setting your new financial year plan for what we're going to be doing from July through until June. So as we close out this financial year, we need to be talking about what is our plan around our average sale price, our volume and our fee. And in the course of the next 30 days, how can I commit to a more powerful routine? I know a number of people are still working from home. Some people are starting to emerge back into workplaces, obviously meeting all of the minimum requirements around that. What I think is incredibly important is that you've got to remember that with new conditions, bring new routines. And now more than ever before, we've got to be starting at the right time inside of our organization. Some of us have had to be looking after little ones, and as they start to go back to school, we can return back into the workplaces. And it's a really healthy place for you to be able to go and spend a few hours, to be able to get back into what it feels like to be a real estate agent again. Now, some of you might have been watching the Last Dance documentary on Michael Jordan. I think it's phenomenal. One of the key things that he says is that as a great basketballer, What you do is you do what great basketballers do. You learn how to run up and down the court. You learn how to shoot the 3-pointers. You learn how to take the rebounds, do the 1-pointers, do the slam dunks. You learn to do all of the great things that great basketballers do. You have recovery moments. You have times where you're under stress and load, but you know how to play the game. And now I think about that, exactly the same thing, Leanne. If you're a great real estate agent, how do you do what great real estate agents do? You do buyer appointments, you do market appraisals, you do listing appointments. And if there was one thing that we learned out of COVID, is that when open for inspections were illegal, it actually forced us to have much better quality buyer appointments. We learned how to really qualify clients. We had better and more committed buyers. We're in a conversation with people, and we're actually learning how to be great salespeople again. And this is really what it takes to be a phenomenal real estate agent. What I always say to people, it's hard work now that makes it easy work later. And this is about committing to a plan. Now I say to people, how much longer do you reckon COVID's going to go on for? I say, well, no one knows. I said, well, let's assume that it's 60 days. If you said to me, what we're going to go and do now is a minimum of 20 connected calls over the course of every single one of these next 60 business days, that would mean that you would speak to over 1,200 people. If 10% of those came to the market, that's 120 listings. If 5% came to the market, that's 60 listings. If 2.5% came to the market, that's 30 listings. And this is what you've got to do. You've got to commit to the basics of what makes you a great real estate agent. Now, the secret to that is actually having a plan, and that's what we're here to build today. We want you to adjust your life so you can show up more in the situations that really bring out your best. What allows me to bring out my best is to make sure that I've gone to bed early the night before, make sure I've gotten up early in the morning, I've gone for a walk, gone for a run, I've done something to get a little bit of exercise in. Then being in a position, I spend a little bit of time with the family and then get ready to get in and go to the office. When I'm there at the office, in my notional office, whether or not that be at home or in my workplace, that I then want to be making sure that I'm doing all of the things that lead to success. So to me, that's about getting a little 45-minute call session. It's about getting the appointments up. And there's more appointments that we can book, the more success that you'll have as an individual agent. At the end of the day, one of the secrets is that the better the vision, the stronger the plan to do. And so for a lot of us, it's about having a vision around what we want to go and do. If you're an agent and you say, Josh, I would love to go and get 4 listings a month, I think that would be a really good outcome. Then I challenge you to say, okay, well, how do we make sure that that happens for June? You know, where are we going to get those 4 listings from? And the secret is that you need to have your first by the 7th day of the month. You need to have your second by the 14th day of the month. You need to have your third by the 21st day of the month. And you need to have your 4th by the 28th day of the month. The more consistent you are around your actions, the less that you have to ride the emotions that a lot of agents go through that simply are just not necessary. The basics, you just got to go and continue to book the appointments. Now, in working with people, what I like to do is I like to say, we've got to get you a bit more strategic, got to get you a bit more pragmatic about the things that you can be doing. And so what I do is I normally write down on this little chart some things that I think will really help people to be able to drive their momentum and their success as an agent. The first key one is I say CRM. How do we make sure that we're getting more of our data inside of our databases? From the major real estate portals to meeting people at open for inspections, because we have to take all the details in the COVID-safe environment, you know, to make sure that we've got all of the contact details if anything does happen. It's a great way to build data. And the secondary appointment, you know, trying to drive as many appointment numbers as possible, getting our call sessions done consistently, learning how to sell more of our vendor paid marketing, and also in addition to that, making sure that we're getting our directionals out each and every week around those properties that we are opening or auctioning. Now, what you simply do is you simply just write down the name of the people inside of your own personal team, or certainly in your office, and you literally just get people to rate themselves in each of these areas. A plus means that they're really good at it, a dot means that they're so-so at it, and a minus means that they're effectively nowhere.com. So the basic idea is that as Josh, I'm really good at getting my data into the CRM as a plus, but I'm nowhere.com on getting my appointment numbers up. I'm not really doing call sessions. I'm really good at my VPA, but I'm not getting many directionals out. And so now I've got to learn, what can I do to improve my score, to move me from a dot to a plus, or move me from a minus to a plus? And what would the organization look like if we could get everyone into a plus? And the reason why this is such an important tool is that you can use it really about everything that you bring inside of your business. You might put up all the different applications that you use, all the different things that you're trying to put in terms of new initiatives, and really make sure that you've got everyone on the path to success for what you want to be doing during the course of this period. The interesting driver on that is that you've got to never miss a great crisis, because they make previously tough moves really easy. The secret, what we've learned, is that this is kind of like the halcyon days for an amazing real estate agent. We've actually had consumers that have been forced to live in their homes over the course of the last 10 weeks. They've now realized that they're too small, that they're not big enough. They want a different environment. They don't like their neighbor, or even worse than that, they might not even like the people that they're living with all of a sudden. So I think that what you've got to remember is that this is a great time to get back on the phones and to go and reconnect with the people that you already know. And as a part of that, you've got to think about it, that if it's not going to be a market of seasons, we're going to declare it here this morning that June and July are the new spring of 2020. And the reason for that, what do we know is going to be happening in August and September? We see the potential of JobKeeper ending. We're talking about all of those holiday home loans all of a sudden starting to having to pay back their home loans. We've got a conversation around what's going to be happening inside of the economy. In addition to that, we're going to have all of the financial reporting about what's happened with all of our publicly listed companies at the end of June 30. And that is where we're going to see some potentially economic storm clouds ahead. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you're thinking about doing something, if you're going to do something in the course of the next 12 months, my advice to you is to literally sell today rather than to wait. And the reason why this is such an important thing, I just don't want to get you involved in the economic storm clouds that are ahead. Now, that's one way. That's one conversation that you might be having. The other conversation is the optimism. The lowest level of interest rates that we've ever seen, the confidence that's starting to build back in the community, the level of optimism as we start to flatten the curve. And now we're even able to go to some restaurants here in New South Wales in a limited form. We're starting to feel like we're getting back to life. And as my mum would always remind me, as a small child, when I was told that I wasn't allowed to do something, the only thing I wanted to do was the thing I wasn't allowed to do. So from that point of view, I think that it is important that we're going to realize that humans will come out of this, they will re-emerge, and it's going to be a tremendous amount of positivity, and I think a big improvement in terms of volume. Now, the secret is that we've got to stay prospecting. There's a good little joke that they say here in Double Bay. One of the basic ideas is the only reason that properties don't sell in June and July is that most of the real estate agents are in Positano. Well, not this year. They're certainly going to be around, and they're certainly going to be out there listing and selling. So from that point of view, you need to realize that now more than ever is a great time to be out there and in the marketplace. Now, this is the market. This is a great conversation, isn't it? That the only market that we've ever had is the one that happens right now. We can't talk about the market that we had. We can't talk about the market that we're going into. We can only talk about what we're doing on the ground today. And literally, we've got to start thinking about how we go to drive that level of conversation with people in a much, much better way. Ultimately, what we know is that people want to buy the feeling of progress. And I don't know about you, but I've been home for 10 weeks straight. I'm starting to look around. I'm starting to think, what are some of the things that I could be doing? And this is a really important conversation because we need to learn how to go and bring your pipeline forward. So in today's session, I wanted to go through a couple of key groups of people that you could be calling, that you could be having conversations with that would substantially change the level of momentum. And the first one is to think about running a really good quality marketing campaign. And I'm happy for you to R&D this, rip off and duplicate if you wish, go for it. It's an amazing one. People are reevaluating their work, they're reevaluating their relationships, and they're reevaluating their home. If you need to know what your home is worth, so then you can make some decisions for the future, we're here to help. Literally the phone number, agent name, that could be your SMS campaign, it might be your direct mail campaign, it might be your email campaign, it might be your social marketing campaign. But the secret is to connect into the hearts and minds of consumers for where they're at today. Here are some of the best call lists and some of the calls that you can be making. What I want you to think about is that every single buyer who attended a private appointment since March 15, at the end of the day, they didn't go to those private appointments because they were just doing it for kicks. They really wanted to be able to continue inside of a property purchase. How many of those buyers that did private appointments with you over that period are in a position that they've already purchased? How many of them still have an appetite to purchase? And in addition to that, how many already own locally and need to sell? So this is a really simple one. One of the key things that we've done with a number of our agents is to go and do the numbers on this. And one of our clients had 80 people come through some of his private appointments during that period. When we got on the phone, we rang all of them. What we identified, 40 of them currently already live locally. In addition to that, 25 of them are in a position that they've already sold. So that's 65 out of the 80 that are in a position that they were literally a local homeowner at some point in time. So this is what great agents do. They learn how to ask one or two game-changing questions that literally shift the result. Have you bought locally before? And what are your plans to do existing when you buy the next? So two very simple questions that yield massive results in good quality buyer work. Now, my argument is about 99% of the people that are on site of your customer database, they really are people that were buyers first. They came from the major real estate portals. They turned up and open for inspections. They called off signboards. And so therefore, it's our ability to be able to work with those buyers that will make a huge difference. Now, what is our best practice? It's a really simple call to get on the phone and go and ring them. Hi, Hannah, it's Josh Fegan calling. It's a very quick courtesy call. I know that we're in some pretty extraordinary times, but we have you down that you're looking to buy. I thought I'd quickly check in to see if you just still have an appetite to purchase. Have you bought locally before? And what are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? It's such simple dialogue. In under 3 questions, you're turning buyers into market appraisals and listing appointment opportunities. The secret is to then think about every single market appraisal that you've done during your career. Why would they move if they did? If you had a buy, could you mention their place, or should you go and sell them something else? And there are plenty of what we go and call buyer sellers in this market. They're people that would literally only sell if they found something to buy. And so this is why it's really important to match them, particularly to off market and those properties that are then on market, to make sure that we can get a result. Now, calling these people, I love it. It's one of the easiest calls to make. You already know them. You've already been to the house. You've already built rapport. So get your confidence on and literally go and ring them. Such an easy conversation. Hi, Hannah, it's Josh Fegan calling. Thought I'd give you a quick courtesy call. I know we're in some pretty extraordinary times. Look, we popped out to give you a bit of an idea on the value of your place a little while back. I thought I'd check in to see how have things progressed. You know, what are the next steps? And if I had a buyer, could I mention your place or should I sell them something else? Now, obviously, if they say yes to that, okay, great, we need to come down and see you. That's where all the normal things will go on. You know, getting a contract organized, getting our agency agreement, all of those different things, but getting us into this position that we can get back in front of our clients today. The next one after that, one of my favorites is every single past client. I say this is a really simple thing, that database to me is a dirty word. Think about it as a customer base. All of these people that you already know that you could be having conversations with. Now, I've bought a number of properties over the last 20 or so years. And one of the things that I've really worked out is that those agents have never ever called me around my existing properties. They've never rung me to let me know about listings or sales in the area. They've never checked in like my dentist does around an annual checkup. And so now is the time to go and reconnect. So these past client calls are really simple. As we come to close out May, how many people inside of your business have bought a property from you or your estate agency in the month of May over its history of trading? How many of those clients have we got on the phone with to offer them the opportunity around an annual checkup? So what does the dialogue sound like? Let's see, and let's make it nice and simple. Hi, Hannah, it's Josh Fegan calling. Look, I know that we're in some pretty extraordinary times, but I thought I'd call you today to say congratulations, you've owned your home for another year. I thought I'd check in. How are things with you? How's the house? And you're actually due for your annual checkup. That's where we pop out, we give you a bit of an idea on the value, so then you can make some better decisions for the future. Would that be useful? Would that be okay? Would you let me do that for you? So you see, simple dialogues produce simple results. And what I always like to think about is this basic idea is that you've got to be a human first and a real estate agent second. That's why you've got to empathetically connect with the customer. I know that we're in some pretty extraordinary circumstances. How are things with you? The more that you can understand their current situation, the more that you can go and help them. You know, the art of sales is really simple. Find out what people want and help them get that. That's really what being a great salesperson does in any marketplace. But what about all of our digital leads? I hear you say there's plenty of digital leads. Every single person who's ever subscribed to your email alerts, you can get on, you can call your email subscribers. Hey, Hannah, it's Josh. I just thought I'd give you a quick courtesy call. I know you've been receiving our emails for a little while. Thought I'd check in to see how are things progressing. What are the next steps for you guys? Have you bought locally before? And quick question, you know, what are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? Do you start to see it's the same dialogue over and over and over again, but with different data sets to make more powerful areas for conversion? We then also got all of our email reports. And if you're looking for good quality buyers, maybe it's time to jump on the phone and call all of the frequent clickers. I love this. People that continue to click on your emails. Can you get on the phone and give them a quick call? Hey, Hannah, it's Josh Fegan. Thought I'd give you a quick courtesy call. I know you've been receiving some emails and that they're holding some interest for you at the moment. Is there anything that I can do to help and assist? Really simple. And don't forget about our unsubscribe calls. A quick phone call within a couple of days after someone's unsubscribed. We noted that you've unsubscribed, and usually people do that because they've found something or what we're sending isn't suiting your requirements. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Oh, look, no, literally we did buy. Congratulations. Did you buy to move in or to lease it out? Oh, we bought to move in. Okay. And what are your plans with your existing home? Oh, we think that we might sell that one. We might lease that one. There is a world of opportunity literally sitting inside of our existing businesses today. And this is what business is all about. It's about setting a strategy, getting very clear about what you can do, particularly in these conditions. What I think was very interesting, Leanne, was a lot of people, they wrote up all the things that they couldn't do when the new restrictions come in play. But they didn't think about all the things that they can do to really be successful real estate agents. Now, the secret, more than ever before, is that you need a plan, something that excites you and gets you energized to get you back out there and really making things happen. Now, to me, here is a really simple plan. The first one is that all of us can be developing a great personal network. Easy way to develop a personal network. Think about tracking the latest development applications on the local council website. When someone goes to develop a property, what are they going to do with that? They're either going to lease it out, they're going to sell it, they're going to move into it. If they move into it, they'll be moving out of another property that will either need to be leased out or sold. It's literally a ton of opportunity sitting inside of that. And this is the chance to build your relationships with builders, with developers, and anyone who does anything that's related to the property industry. So think about it, lawnmowers, painters, plumbers, electricians, all of our great service providers that usually have a much stronger relationship with our property management teams than they do with our sales teams. This is interesting because then there's the good quality buy work that we get to do on a regular and consistent basis, working with those past clients and getting more social proof. And that's got nothing to do with social media. That's the basic idea that every single time a signboard goes up and gets a sold sticker applied, in the following 30 days, another signboard will go up in that street. You betcha. There's always something happening. And then all of our landlords, a tremendously valuable asset to any real estate business. But how many of our landlords right now would like to buy another investment property? How many of them are in a position that maybe they would like to sell their existing principal place of residence? Now, I've been a landlord for over 20 years, and you wouldn't believe it, they've never called me to let me know about other properties in and around where my properties are. There's never been a conversation about whether or not I needed an equity check on my existing principal place of residence to see whether or not I should be buying more properties. Obviously, in addition to that, all the great community work that a number of our members do in really supporting these communities that we get to operate in. All of that, we call it a cake, is got some icing on it. We go and call it the customer experience. This is ultimately what we're there to do. And we operate in two very different worlds. The first world that we operate is in the online world. In the online world, this is where you could send out an email which has a monthly wrap, bit of a summary on what's happening inside of your market to everyone who's inside of your personal network. In addition to that, you can make sure that all of your buyers go to receive a buyer alert around new listings that come to market, but also in addition to that, around a weekly wrap. And there's some great market update videos that we see some phenomenal agents do each week, which gives you a good understanding of the marketplace today. Some of the new technologies that are coming onto the plate in the Australian real estate prop tech sector actually focus on automation. And some of them allow you to be able to send out an automated email for an annual checkup for a past client. Hi, Leanne, it's Josh. Congratulations. You've owned your home for another year. You're actually due for your annual checkup. And click on the button below so then you can book in for your annual checkup for us to pop out and give you an idea on what your home is worth. This automation connects into things like Calendly to allow people to book into your calendar. Next one after that is this great idea, this conversation around serving our landlords in new and better ways, giving landlords the opportunity to receive landlord first emails around properties that could suit their requirements, where the content is heavily geared towards development potential, current rental return, or even potential for capital growth. This is an interesting conversation, letting landlords know about properties that have been listed and sold in and around where they live, their principal place of residence, and also too, in and around where their investment properties are. Now, if you've been around for a little while, you would have realized that I've been very focused in the offline world for many years. And this is about activity calls, doing a 45-minute call session to all of the builders, developers, plumbers, painters, electricians, lawnmowers, and people that you already know, home stylists. In addition to that, when we do great quality buy work, whether or not someone's been to an open or they're coming to a private appointment, making sure we're doing a good quality buy callback, a 10-day callback, and even a just sold call. I went through a phenomenal property in my local area only a couple of weekends ago. I had a quick look at it. I then got the phone call from the agent to advise that the property had been sold, which was fantastic. But they didn't ask me what my plan was with my existing home. They didn't book that market appraisal opportunity. And that's the secret. A lot of success is in the last 10% of everything that you do. Then with our past clients, how many of them have got the annual checkup calls, the justice to just sold calls as it happens? And with our landlords, the equity checks, the annual checkups, and the justice to just sold calls. So what is that you see on your screen? That's a plan. And that's a buffet of prospecting. That's all the different things that you can do to be a really good quality real estate agent And it all relates to the key relationships you've already got sitting in your business today. And the secret is about choosing where you're going to play to your strengths. If you're just starting out, you might be building a personal network. If you're starting out, buyer work will be a massive part of what you do. Maybe it might also be a little bit more social proof. If you've been around for a little bit longer, a few more past clients, a little bit more landlords, and certainly a bit more community work. But what you need to be thinking is you don't need all of them to be successful, but you need at least one or two to be highly successful. And you've got to start somewhere. You got to remember that even the best salespeople in our industry, they had their first day in real estate. They had their first day trying to get a listing. They had all the frustration of the rejection on the phone. They had the fear of picking up the phone. But you know what? They got on it and they do what great real estate agents do. And this is exactly the same for you. So what I wanted to have a quick look at, before we finish and go to our live questions, is to just have a look at some toolkits on some things that can make you successful. The first one is hypotheticals. And this is a great way to test where consumers are at. And so a really good way to think about a hypothetical is to start with the if I set of dialogue. So if I had a buyer who wanted to buy your place with a longer settlement, what would you want me to do then? If I had a buyer who wanted to buy your place, could I mention it or should I sell them something else? If I had a buyer that wanted to buy your property with a lease back in play, then what would you do? And the more that you use hypotheticals, the more that you can test the assumptions, you can test the objections of the client. Now, the secret is also really good quality case studies. I'm a big fan of the auction bidding record, but most importantly, good quality case studies that show how long was the property on the market for? How many inquiries, inspections, second appointments, and offers did we receive on that particular property? How did we go selling that during COVID times? And this is the idea that this could be incredible social media tiles. It might be a video case study. It might be simply a brochure of the property with all of those key stats on there to talk to people about what we've actually seen inside of the real estate industry. You've got to remember the media only reports on what's happening. We're the ones that make it happen. So it's incredibly important that we remember that we will be a massive part of the rebuilding of this country. The property sector is a very significant sector. And in fact, one of the only ones that didn't completely shut down throughout the course of COVID-19. In addition to that, there's going to be a ton of media commentary. The banks are out there, some of them telling you up to 32% discounting in relation to pricing. I haven't seen it. Reality of it is that they say the more conservative ones, they're thinking maybe 7 or 8%. The reality of it is that no one actually knows. But what I do know is a very simple thing. We are in a position today that we've never had the chance to get all of our vendors to stay living in their homes for 10 weeks and just to realize how inadequate those homes might actually be. Secondary part of that is that we've got to get very, very clear. We're in the business of solving problems. There's only 11 reasons why people make that decision to move. Anything from having a baby, getting a job relocation, unfortunate circumstances like a deceased estate or some financial pressure, but also some exciting things that people do as well, where they get to be able to buy that better home, that aspirational purchase. What I think is important is for you to get really clear about what you can be doing. And the secret is that right now we're moving into a new era of transparency. What does that transparency look like? Well, your diary is your effort. Whatever has happened in that diary over the course of the last 14 days is really what you've been doing as an individual agent. And what I know that where success hits is you've got to increase your total numbers of appointments. And you need to make sure that you plan a few days out for the hard work that's being done. What I would say to you is that we didn't get our Easter holidays. We're not going to get our June, July holidays. We do need to make sure that we've got a couple of days away from the office. And as we start to be able to travel within New South Wales at this point, and certainly maybe a bit of Victoria, but the reality of it is that we do get some plans on a couple of days away from the trade so that we can get back in and be very strong and powerful in this next era of the real estate marketplace. At the end of the day, it's all about the drive to be the best every single day. I don't worry about the competitors. I don't worry about what other people are doing. I don't worry about all of the talk about what may or may not be happening. What I focus on is on my customers and what I can do to help my customers to go out there and to achieve their goals. Final little quote here. It's one of the great ones from Herb Keller. He gave this from Southwest Airlines. He said, you know what, we got a strategic plan. It's called doing things. And this is what I love. It's a really important conversation. And it's a big one for people to be very clear about, that if you want to be successful, you got to get out there and go and make some actions happen. I said that to you, Tim, in our briefing call only a few days ago, that certainly respectfully out of everyone that I'd seen, that the REI New South Wales was absolutely leaders on its briefings to its members around what has been happening in the marketplace and certainly the changes. And now, more than ever before, this is a great chance for us to come together as an industry and to lead the country forward in terms of the recovery. So I'm not sure that I even took a breath in the last 36
No,
or so
I don't
minutes,
think
Leanne.
you did. I don't think you did, but there was so much great content in there. Thank you so much for that. And I love that. We've got a strategic plan. It's called Doing Things.
Yeah, so Tim, we might need to get you to unmute so that we can hear that commentary.
Yes, exactly.
We've lost
You'd
him
think
there.
he'd
I just said I got my pencil out making notes here, so that was fantastic. Josh.
Yeah, it really was.
Excellent.
So I've got a question for you, Josh. Do you have any specific things that will make us come back bigger and stronger post-COVID?
I think that the big thing is just to realise what actually works. And private buyer appointments have really shown about building better quality relationships.
Yep.
It's quite funny. Many of you will know that my dad's still a real estate agent today down in regional New South Wales. I said, hey, Dad, you know, you've got to be careful with these new open homes coming back. You know, you've got to watch some of the numbers. Dad said, we've never had numbers come through. We'll be fine. We just stay to private appointments. And that's really an important driver. I think that a lot of the regional agents, there's a very strong member base, that they can actually teach some of our city agents a little bit about how to deal in these new market conditions, because those private appointments are the things that go to build relationships. I know there's a phenomenal agent, Jamie Giacaris, who's out at Lithgow, and Jamie's about 230 sales a year. No opens, no auctions. What he does though is great private buyer appointments, really good quality and simple negotiations, and that's what allowed him to be successful. He said, Josh, I get all my listings because people call me back and say, you were the agent that took us out, that met us at the property, that walked us through it, and that's why we made the decision to buy. So it's always about reimagining. You've got a toolkit, learn what tools are going to be appropriate. If I could say anything at this point, Leanne, you've got to have a few goals again. You know, it's been pretty easy. The holidays are gone, and certainly you're not thinking, oh, I won't be going overseas, or maybe that thing that I was looking forward to, I won't be able to do quite yet. But there will be a day. And I know that certainly if you've been able to have your first restaurant experience, you probably ordered everything that was on the menu. But it is a secret that we've got a bigger future ahead than our past. And we've got to remember this, that I think that we're much further through the curve than we probably realize. When I saw this first happen, I said to people, it'll take about 10 weeks or so before we'll get into a position of some basic level of normality. And I'm happy to report, with our ability to be able to do some auctions now, and certainly to be able to do some open homes with restrictions, it does give us some capability to have some level of normality. And I think like that comment about mental health, that there's nothing better for your mental health than a listing or a sale. There's nothing better for your mental health than feeling like you're an agent, getting back out there, doing a few open homes on a Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you think that agents are too busy with technology and have forgotten the importance of person to person?
I think that technology is there to amplify the human experience. I know that, basic little idea. I try not to, but if ever I have to go to a doctor, I don't really want to ring up at 8 a.m. and argue with the front reception about whether or not I can get an appointment. So I just downloaded the Health Engine app, I press a button, I book in the appointment, and I just go. Now, I still want to have that great experience. I still want to meet the doctor and do all of those things. And it's exactly the same inside of real estate. Technology should really help to stop the back and forth in trying to just get logistics organized so that we can spend more time being humans. And I know that more than ever before, this is what I enjoy about negotiation, whether or not it's at an auction or in a for sale situation, your chance to be able to press the flesh, so to speak, although we technically can't do that right at the moment. We've got to literally do our hand sanitization first. It really does help you to do it. And I know that the moment that we can be able to do that again and be able to hug and do some of those things, that human connection will really solve a lot of things. We did some work with a guy called Dr. Edward Hallowell. He wrote a book called Crazy Busy out of Seattle only last year. And one of the key things that he did is the preeminent researcher on ADHD. And one of the conversations that Hallowell said, he said the number one thing that solves a lot of issues for people is connect, connect, connect. He said that the biggest issue really in society is that a lot of us have a Ferrari engine for a brain, but we have bicycle brakes. In other words, we go completely down the wrong road and we don't know how to slow ourselves up. And I think that this is the certainly the situation. I know that only for me, when COVID first hit, I was like, what am I going to do? Do I even have a business? And I'm always
because you hadn't done any Zoom training at that stage, right? Everything you'd done was face to face. So you literally lost all of your business overnight.
So 90% of my business became illegal, effective, immediate. We had over $350,000 worth of work in New York in April that we handed back because we just couldn't go and do it. We weren't able to get on any flights, no cars, no accommodation. And for the first time ever, I had to sleep in the same bed for more than 3 nights in a row. And after the last 13 years of traveling so much, it was a really different world. And I said to people, if COVID doesn't get me, then my home cooking will. But I'm very glad to say that that has improved over the course of the last 10 weeks, following one of your great auctioneers, Damien Cooley's lead on his Instagram.
Oh, very good. Now, in your coaching sessions, what is an outstanding moment for you with a sales agent? And how did that make you feel?
I think, it's such a great one. And the outstanding moment is kind of when the light bulb goes off. And I know that that sounds funny. You don't always get to be there for the moment that lands, but certainly when people get to hear it. And the lesson now more than ever before is that when you're there and you see that someone gets it, and then they go away and they do something with it, and then they send you a little note and they go, hey, by the way, I got that together. I'll never forget, I had a guy that was literally out in the suburbs, and he's trying to list a property, and he rings me and he says, hey, Josh, I've got this listing presentation. I'm going into a property and it's $1 million. And I said to him, oh, okay. And I said, tell me about that. He goes, I've never listed something at $1 million before. I was like, okay. I said, so what's your highest ever sale price? He said, well, most of my stuff is in and around the 800 mark. He goes, but I'm really worried about going to this presentation. I said, well, do you know how to write $1 million? He goes, oh yeah, I think I can write it. So we did that. He said, well, what do I say to the vendor? I said, when you're there, because you're not the dominant agent, because you don't do a lot of transactions in that price point, just come up with a really good quality story that, with authenticity. I said, at the end of the day, the people that are going to be buying that $1 million asset are all of the current sellers that are selling with him in the $800,000 price point. He goes, so that's all I have to say. I said, yeah, go for it. So he goes into the listing lounge room. He says that to the client. He rings me up after. He goes, guess what? I said, what's that? He goes, I got my first ever $1 million listing. And that is amazing, because they're kind of the moments that we live for. And I think that a lot of people forget how special it is to be able to get an agency agreement signed that first time, how special it is to be able to get one of those landmark sales for your area across the line, to be able to go through a difficult negotiation and even successfully sell your first auction. And those moments are a really powerful thing. And I think that you can never have a position that you have a know-it-all mindset. You've got to have a learn-it-all mindset in everything that you do. I learn from all sorts of different people. I learned from my niece who's 5 or 6 years old. I learned from people that are 85 as well. You can be learning from people all the time, and you've got to have that learn-it-all mindset.
I love that line. I've just made a note of that, learn-it-all mindset. I love it. And the point that you made about storytelling is so important. And I think that maybe not enough agents have a library, if you like, of stories that are authentic to them, but can suit different situations. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And I think the other thing is too, is that we don't have to play as though we're new. Sitting inside of some of these firms, if you're a newer person, the business has got some great case studies on properties that it's sold. The business has got some great stories about it. And I always say to people, we're going to walk into situations, but there's 11 of them, that we walk into as a real estate agent. And one of those might be a deceased estate. Now, what I do when I walk into a training room is I say to people, hey, quick question, hands up if you've ever sold a deceased estate before as an agent. And, about half the hands go up. And I'd say, and hands up if you've ever been in a position that you were an executor in a deceased estate. And about 1 or 2 hands go up. And it's interesting because I say, okay, so for the other 50% of people that have never sold a property as a part of a deceased estate, what do they need to know? Well, they need to know all sorts of different things about beneficiaries, and is there probate, and have they been an executor before, and what are the legal ramifications, and all of the other things that go on with that. And that's actually how we grow the skills of the future generations in this industry. And I've never been more excited about where the industry will be going, certainly the pathway to professionalism, and that, we've been driving ahead, and I've had some limited capability to be around that just with some of the travel, but it's been a big thing that you were driving on behalf of the industry. I was very happy to support that, because this is an incredible profession. So what a lot of people might not know, I actually did my original training and qualifications in accounting. And I went and did my accounting degree at university. And when I got out, I remember day one of sitting there in the office in the newspaper group I was working at, and I looked at the accountant across the row from me, and I said to him, I said, hey, he goes, yeah. I said, is this what we do? He said, what's that? I said, sit here on a computer and type numbers all day. And he goes, yeah. I said, mate, this ain't for me. He goes, what do you mean? He said, you spent 3 years at uni to do this. I said, nah, I want to get out there and be with the people. And that's when I realized that being a real estate agent is probably the most underrated, but yet the most fulfilling careers that you can have. You get to be with people at some challenging moments in life, some exciting moments in life, but also too, you have a very important role to play in the fabric of your community, of connecting. And we've seen so many of the members do that, where they're connecting with vulnerable members in society, helping them through this particular period, but also too, getting out there and providing employment. I know that a number of my clients that we're working with at the moment, we're talking about whether or not we do a little bit of a pledge. You know, could we all employ one extra person inside of our organization to help with the unemployment sitting inside of the community? So that's certainly an initiative that we're going to have a bit of a chat about and see whether or not that's something that people are interested in. But I think that that's the sort of stuff that makes our country great again. People don't realize the power of the real estate industry and what it can do to support, you know, a great development. And what always people, you know, forget is that this is not only one of the best industries, it's actually one of the core industries, because shelter is at one of the cores of being a great human being.
Yep, absolutely. And it also, you know, the amount of other business for the economy that hangs off every single real estate transaction is just phenomenal. And I think that's one of the reasons why the government actually didn't shut us down. And one of the reasons why, despite only being able to have, at the time, 10 people in a funeral, you could have 500 people outside at an auction. So I thought that there was some really interesting distinctions there. I've actually got a bit of a personal question over here. How do you start your day and how do you finish it? How many hours do you work?
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? So I am in a position that because I came from the country, right? So I came from Albury. When I came to Sydney, I had to learn how to get around. And in Albury, we get a bit frustrated when there's more than about 5 minutes in our journey of traffic. In Sydney, that's like kind of considered a good run. And so what I worked out is that I just had to be in a situation that in life that I would start a bit earlier, so I could just get around Sydney and Melbourne and whatever a little bit quicker. So I start a little bit earlier than most people. I also go to bed a fair bit earlier than most people as well. So I try to be in bed around 8:30, 9 o'clock most nights, and in a position that I'll kick most mornings at about 4:10. I get up, and by 4:30, I go for a nice little run, 5 o'clock little workout at home. And by 5:30, I want to be having some breakfast and getting ready for the day. Certainly on the road by 6:45. I speak with my head of sales, Kylie, every day at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yep. And then we're usually training and we're inside of an office or working for a client usually by 8 a.m. every day. We'll finish that at about 3. I'll speak to a minimum of 20 salespeople around the country, sometime between about 3 and 5. Normally I catch a plane to my next location, or I'll go out for a quick dinner with a client, you know, provide a bit more mentoring, finish most days about 7:30, 8. Take some time out, a bit of meditation, whatever. Do that for 5 days a week. And then literally take 10 to 12 weeks worth of annual leave a year. And we've been very lucky with the support of, you know, some phenomenal people that helped to start our business in the very early days. But now we've had the chance to travel to lots of different places. We actually train in the UK, the UAE, New Zealand, Australia, you know, certainly as a part of that. And one of the key things I can tell you about doing that is that without a doubt, Australia is so far ahead of the rest of the world in its level of work ethic and its level of professionalism in the real estate industry, and also to the work rate. So the number of transactions per salesperson, that it is absolutely amazing. And I think that, like, you know, we've got to realize that, you know, although we complain from time to time about some of the legislation, I'd love to be in a position that we had a national license and some of those things.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? I had that conversation with our board just yesterday, saying, even though it failed dismally when they tried to do it before, I think that it has really, with all of the discussions between states and all of the differences and all of that complexity over the last 10 weeks, I think now is the time to put that back on the agenda.
I'd love to see that, because sometimes I forget when I'm in Victoria, I've got to talk about a Section 32. When I'm in New South Wales, I'm talking about a contract, you know, so it is a really important, you know, part of that conversation.
Okay, I've got another question here. Josh, how much of percentage of your commission / income should be spent on training and coaching, do you think?
I think 100%. What do you reckon?
I would have thought you would be mad if you didn't say that.
That's a loaded question.
It is.
I don't really have any guidance on that apart from this. You know, at the end of the day, I have a lot of problems in my life. So I take them to Amazon.com. I decided that meetings suck, so I typed in meetings suck on Amazon.com. And for $20, I downloaded the book called Meetings Suck by Cameron Herold, and I've never had better meetings since I read it. And so information is readily available. And so what you've got to do is you've got to connect. There's plenty of people that are coaches. that you got to connect with someone that understands where you want to be going and has the right tools and techniques to get you there. You know, I'm certainly not for everyone. I get that. But what I do know is that literally I am for people that want progress. And so the lesson is that if you want someone who is going to hold you accountable, I'm probably not your guy. If you want someone who's going to hold you responsible, I'm absolutely your guy, because you said you wanted to do that. Now go and do the actions. Yep. So I'm not a big believer in signing people up to things forever. I tend to do a small piece of work with people. If they like what it is that we do, then we do more. And I'm very lucky that, and Leanne, I'd count you involved in this, that I've had plenty of people that have been a part of my career for many years. They've given me a couple of clips over the year from time to time, that have given me some encouraging words from time to time as well, but they've actually helped me to become the coach that I am today. And that's the really good thing, is that, you know, you didn't even realize that you needed it at that time, but someone mentored you to get to that level of success.
And you've got to be willing to take that on board, right? Because as you say, a learn-it-all mindset, not a know-it-all mindset. Some people just can't be wrong and can't be told.
Yeah, and I think that the big thing is that there is a really big difference between paying someone to be a professional coach for you versus just getting free content. And I think that, like, we've seen the rise and rise and rise of millions of podcasts and videos and all sorts of things during COVID. And I think that, like, the secret is that you've got to really think, is this actually helping me to get to where I want to go? Yep. And certainly when I was trying to navigate the commercial leasing landscape, the residential leasing landscape, you know, when I was trying to get the forms about rent reductions and relief packages and things, I was coming back and leaning directly back on REI New South Wales for that, because it was the voice of reason and the voice of sense and truth about what we could and couldn't do at that particular point in time. And I think that, like, that's the important part. And I've reached out to Tim on 1 or 2 occasions because I didn't know what online auction's going to be legal or not, you know, on that Sunday night when that happened. You know, so some of that sort of stuff is really important, that, you know, people play a really vital role. If you want a great coach, make sure that you're clear on what you want as an outcome. And I always say that a coach can only be as good as you are to the coach in explaining what it is that you want.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And Chris says you're the best, Josh. So that's nice feedback, isn't it?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, lovely.
Now, just to finish off, Tim, I've got somebody who wants to know what you've taken out of this presentation.
What I've taken out of it? Oh, yeah, so heaps of stuff. But the things that stick in my mind is that you talked about having a never let the good crisis go past. And I think that was really, that's what struck an chord with me, because I think there's 2 groups of people. Those that are sitting over here going, woe is me. I was doing things in this way, and now I can't, and that's really sad. So I'm going to sit there and sulk. And the other group of people are saying, this is fantastic. Here is a series of opportunities that I have that I can go and do now that I couldn't have done before. And that's a mindset thing that I thought was really interesting. But Josh, I've made notes, and since somebody's bothered to ask that,
here we go. You had to ask, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I've got other notes, but I think it's a good one. One last one that I thought was very good, since somebody bothered to ask about this. If you want to be good, do what good people do. Yeah. How simple is that? Yeah. How simple is that? You know, do what good people do, and then you go there. And finally, somebody said to me about playing golf, and I don't get golf. I think it's a stupid game. But somebody once said to me, you're not. When you play golf, you're actually playing against yourself, not against your.
Was that my husband that said that to you?
What's that?
Was that my husband?
No, I don't know. As soon as somebody mentions golf, my eyes glaze over. But what somebody once said to me about that you're not playing against everybody else, you're actually playing against yourself. And it reminded me of that when you said, don't worry about what your competitors are doing. All right, don't worry about that. Just stay focused on what you're doing. So you're actually playing the game against yourself. Yeah. So, yeah, and I thought that was another takeaway. So they're my 3, whoever asked the question.
Very good. And I've had a question, Josh, what meditation do you recommend? Do you use a particular app?
Yeah, I just use the Calm app. Really love it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Little 10-minute ones every day. And then also too, they've got their sleep stories. I've never been able to listen to a whole one. So they must be very effective. Yeah, just fall asleep, gone.
Oh, so wow. Okay, I'll have to try that. Yeah, I use Breathe. But I've also used, which is really good. And also I have used Headspace. So there's lots of different good ones around. And I've got one last question before we let you go. Do you find it hard to turn off?
No, not at all. I think that like the secret is that work when you work and holiday when you holiday.
Yeah.
And that's a really important mechanism is that I love just the little sleep function on your phone. You can put that on to sleep and just go and do the things that you need to do. You know, I think that it's a really good thing, you know, more than ever before, that you've got to appreciate, you know, the opportunities that exist inside of the industry. I was just having a quick look through some of our attendees today, and, you know, we've got some people on there that were literally there at the beginning of my real estate training business, Patricia Coe, Brett Hunter, you know, some of the great supporters, and obviously yourself as well, Leanne, as a part of that. So it is really important to remember to help as many people as you can and to help people get through this particular crisis. And certainly extend that to all of our members in the REI New South Wales. If ever we can assist as an independent training company over here at Josh Vegan, love to be able to help. And thanks a million for the opportunity this morning to be able to present to some of my fellow members.
It has been absolutely incredible. And for those of you that are asking, yes, we have been recording it. It will be up on the website either later today or Monday. So Josh Vegan, thank you so much. We so appreciate your time. That was an awesome presentation.
Thanks, Josh. That was great. And one final thing, somebody asked about how much you should spend of your commission or whatever it is on training. I don't know the answer to that, but Benjamin Franklin said, if you pour your money into your head, you make a very wise investment. And I think I will take that away as well, that if the best investment you can make is in yourself. So
fantastic, Tim.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you,
see you later.
We'll see you
Bye.
Cheers.
See you, Lan.